I'm much better kind of shoot from the hip kind of person. Stream of
Oh,
content.
that works perfectly then.
Yeah, us too.
It's great for podcasting and streaming because I can just talk and talk and talk and talk with little to no structure. So yeah,
Excellent.
if you need me to fill the air, I'm happy to.
Well, Max, you're staying consistent. Even when you're out of LA, you're still laying down, so people won't be alarmed by it.
Oh yeah, that's true. Just laying back.
Very on brand for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, hanging.
Max has a reputation that precedes him, you know.
Yeah. If people get concerned when they tune in and they see me sitting upright, they're like, "Oh God, what's going on?"
They can't tell the setup though, because it's a sweet setup. Because he's basically in his living room, and his TV is his computer. So he has a separate PC that's on the TV, and so you have this 50-inch screen or whatever. And you can just like have a keyboard and lay down on the couch. So
65
if people
inch
saw the
mark,
full
please.
breadth, they would understand. But in reality, it's like, can you stand? I'm like a little.
Yeah, I mean, you know, my high school friends were concerned that I might be a paraplegic because whenever they came to visit, I was just chilling.
Yeah, what happens in high school?
What's up? Oh, what up, Toon, Jeff, Cam, everybody I recognize. I haven't seen a bunch of people in a while. It's cool to see everybody again. Been out here in Seattle doing family stuff. The wedding was really fun. I'll post some pictures too. Most importantly, my sister was very happy, so success. But yeah, what's up?
So was it actually Seattle, or was it like Fremont or Capitol Hill or?
Oh yeah, the wedding was in what is that area called? Wood. Oh, what was the wedding? Where was it at?
Where?
Yeah, but what was the city? Do you remember? Woodinville. It was like a vineyard in Woodinville.
Got it. Okay.
And and they live in Linwood, and then
Sure.
Oh yeah, Chateau Lille was the name of the vineyard that they. It was really, really nice place. Very like kind of a small little like very small batch vineyard. It seemed like
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, my family lives in Issaquah, which is like metropolitan Seattle. Like, yeah. So spending a good amount of time outside of Seattle too, because a lot of people here have children, so they don't really want to go downtown and do the stuff.
Wait, have you spent time in the Washington area? Or are you from there? Or have family there? Mike?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, you know, being in the video game business, you know, I think every company I've ever worked at, and we have a studio in Seattle. So I've been to Seattle maybe 100 times.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's Valve and Bellevue and
Bungie's out here.
Bungie, Microsoft,
everybody, right? And then Microsoft's there, and Nintendo's there, and
Nintendo of America is headquarters here. Yeah.
Redmond,
I used to do that in high school. You could sign up for game testing at Nintendo, and they pay you like a couple $100. So it's like 16. I was like, I can play video games and I get a couple $100.
Hell yeah! I translated some stuff for Bungie into German too back in the day. That was
really?
Yeah, the video game area kind of thrives in the upper kind of Northwest. And it's funny, I'll tell you, the first probably 7 or 8 times I went to Seattle, gorgeous and sunny and spectacular. I'm like, you know, this is all just a myth to keep the Californians from all moving to Seattle. Like the weather was spectacular and the views just amazing, and there was no traffic problems. And you're like, just wait. And then I had like 21 straight visits of spittily rain or not rain that couldn't make up its mind, gray overcast.
Yeah, that's rain here. Yeah, that's like that drizzle where like it's raining, but like you don't need an umbrella. That's like Washington rain. Yeah.
Yeah, no one uses an umbrella. That's a really good point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for context, we all grew up in Issaquah together. So
okay, well there you go. Sure.
Yeah, we all got rained on.
Yeah, Offbeat Studios, who built a game for me called Marvel Avengers Alliance, is based in Kirkland.
Oh yeah.
And so we used to hit Daniel's Broiler there all the time in the Bell Square area, and you know they went on to the 2 guys who founded Offbeat, and we bought them when I was at Playdom, which got bought by Disney. The group who founded Offbeat went on to build a company called Big Box Studios, and then they did a game called Population One, which then they sold that company to Facebook, doing a VR version of Fortnite, if you will. And so a lot of great development talent there. Some really, really good folks.
Yeah, there's a lot of changing of hands.
It is. Well, first they sell their company. So they were both, I want to say they were Valve employees and Microsoft employees on the gaming side. And then they went and branched out on their own and built a company called Offbeat that Playdom bought. And then they did really, really well there, tied to kind of royalties and bonuses and whatnot. And then they spun out and did something else, I don't know what. And then they formed big box studios that got bought and sold. And I'm assuming once they get tired of doing that, they'll go do it again. And they're really great guys. And it's really funny. The guy who runs the studio is just a sweetheart. And he was the boss, and he would let people know when they were talking too much or not. And he'd say, and I'll never forget this line, he goes, "I need you to shut the fuck up a little bit."
Just a little bit.
Right. I need you to shut the fuck up a little bit. Like, it was just like the funniest thing to me. I'm like, oh, that's kind of saying shut the fuck up, but in a really polite way, as only he could do. And
yeah, that's good.
It stayed with me, and I think it's funny and charming and whatnot. And he's beloved by his employees. And
that's walking a fine line of finesse there.
It really is.
I feel like high risk, high reward there.
It really, really is. Yeah. So anyway, I digress.
Yeah, I have some friends that went to Digipen. I know Digipen's a big producer there. That Digipen is like a gaming 3D design artist kind of college or whatever in Redmond. So it's like right by Microsoft. So that feeds into a lot of the tech world in the area.
Yeah, Digipen and Full Sail both are very similar in that regard, and came to prominence kind of mid to late 90s because no universities or colleges had any kind of gaming track, right? Like you could you could learn to be an engineer, you could learn to be an animator, sure, but nothing game specific, right? So, learning scripting languages and rendering pipelines and all those things that are very kind of salient to games became a focus. And there's some really talented people that came out of that. It really filled a need for, gosh, I want to go to school to learn my craft. It's more of a vocational program, not just a
it is cool that the whole program is designed every step of the way to feed into gaming. So
yeah, it really kind of legitimized, like, oh, you can go to school for this. Oh, cool. And now you've seen, like, I just got asked yesterday to go speak at USC on the 14th of June to address one of their classes. Like, you're seeing major universities really kind of take this gaming track seriously.
I was telling someone the other day, they were like, I was like blowing their mind that people were getting like college scholarships for esports.
Yeah.
I was like, I guarantee you right now, there are people getting like getting their entire college paid for playing like League of Legends or things like that.
I'm a big League of Legends degenerate player. I mean, I really am. And it's so impressive to me how good those people are. And they're peaking at like 19 or 20.
It's almost like a different game. Like you're like, this is how I play. And then like the pros, it's like, it's on a whole nother level, a whole nother meta that you're like, it just looks completely different to me, even though the skins are the same.
Yeah. I didn't really get esports until Overwatch, because like, it's hard to get esports until someone plays a game that you play. And then you're like, oh, they're playing an entirely different game than me. And like the team composition and the teamwork is just like, it's almost like art. It's really beautiful to watch. And like, now I'm totally for esports, all that stuff. But I definitely is one of those people that's like, why would anybody watch people play video games? But like, I don't know. There's definitely, it's really fun.
And you're exactly right. Until you have a game that you love, and then you go watch somebody who's unbelievably good at it, you're like, then it really all clicks in. You're like, oh, I understand. And not only am I playing because I'm a fan of what you do, but I'm playing because it shows me how you see the world. It keeps me, I don't have to read an FAQ. I don't have to watch any kind of training videos. I just watch the pros play. Right. And it's really inspiring to see how good they are. And the thing about League of Legends, so I played a lot, probably 17,000+ games in my life. I started playing in 2009. And I got a lot of funny stories about how League of Legends actually came to be. And Mark Merrill and Brendan Beck, who built the company, what their ultimate goal was, kind of trying to take on BattleNet and whatnot. Like, there's some great stories there. But I understand everything that's happening in the game, and yet I have no ability to execute, not even 1,000th of what they do, because their reactions and the choreography of all the moves, like, it's so beautiful to watch. Like, if you understand soccer and how the one-touch passes and how they work the ball, like, it's just such a, like, the way most people look at kind of the world of soccer or football, I look at kind of, league play that way. It's just like, it's so poetic to me, and it's not lost on me one bit, the level of skill and expertise that goes into that play. And it's a thing of beauty. I really find myself getting sucked into hours and hours of kind of watching my favorite streamers play. And yet nobody gets it until they get it, right?
Yeah, as someone who doesn't really watch sports, I like watching the esports for a game I actually liked was like the first time where I was like, oh, okay, like this kind of doesn't just click esports, but like the entire sports fandom to me now.
Right.
I'm like, okay, I totally get why people like go nuts.
Oh yeah,
Dude, it's so funny too, because like some of these top level players are like 18 years old. So it's like these baby face kids like signing autographs, like walking through these big stadiums. I mean, League of Legends grand finals. I mean, these are like they will like sell out Madison Square Garden. Like it's no joke. And they and particularly because the fan base is, like sports is more of like an adult driven thing. So now you have a fan base that's teenagers all the way up to adults, kids, or parents, grandparents, whatever. They like when people try to poo-poo on esports. I mean, League of Legends grand finals probably rival Super Bowl numbers. Now I can't back that up, but I'm pretty sure it can get pretty up there as far as streamers and views.
I can back it up. So the third or fourth LCS, right, the League Championship Series, did 3 or 4 times as many live viewers of that than the Super Bowl.
Like because people can live stream it on their phone too. It's like way different. Yeah.
Right.
It's also international. Like our sports are national, like football and baseball and stuff. Like the whole world doesn't care about that as much as they do. Like esports is global more so than like national sports.
Yeah.
That's massive.
Yeah. And like regular sports, your Team Solo Mid or your Azubu Frost or Taipei Assassins, like you had that emotional connection to a group. And a lot of times, if you know the play, like Faker as a mid, like he's just so like he's like a savant. He's like literally like conducting an orchestra when he plays. It's so beautiful to watch, and you really feel those ties that bind, like you would any Michael Jordan or anybody else like that. And you can see how this younger generation grew up with that, right? But it's really interesting. You talk about the kind of the ageism of League of Legends. These 18-year-old kids. 60 Minutes ran a piece on esports, and HBO Real Sports has done it as well. Like, they're scouting kids at 5-6 years old now, like literally CAA and FaZe Clan and others that are really getting into kind of talent procurement. Like this guy said, I have to leave because there's a 6-year-old who's just killing it literally on the public servers. I'm going to go scout him. 6. And
that's
sniping is a thing, and calling SWAT teams on people during competitions is a thing. Like the levels of competition and toxicity, no limits. Like literally this kid who I think he won the Fortnite Grand Championship. Like when they had it at Flushing Meadows, they walked out with like $13 or $15 million, and people.
Oh my God!
Yeah, he was a kid and he was on tour, like literally on 3 different kind of national or global competitions. A sort of a live kind of hostage situation was called into his house during the middle of play, and the SWAT team comes pounding on your door. Stop what you're doing. Now, the people who called him in actually have been found and arrested and all that stuff, but you don't even think about that as like, what could happen to me today? Oh, I know. I could be winning in Fortnite, just rolling through all the different, kind of brackets, and they called the SWAT team on me. It's like, wait, what? Yeah.
Yeah, that's
stream like, oh, I know where he is. I've got this other monitor going, like literally calling a series of snipers to come in and tie down your house and make you come out. Like the 16-year-old kid made him lie down on the grass, hand behind the head, the whole thing. He's like, I'm not an active shooter. I'm literally playing Fortnite right now, and my company called this in.
He's like, I'm murdering people in Fortnite, though.
I am killing it.
Totally, just on a rampage. So that's how you know you're crushing real hard when the real world police show up, because you're just dominating too much.
That's how you know you've really made it. You've crossed that barrier.
Yeah,
we got people piling in, so I kind of want to transition over to, I guess, the more interview portion of our show.
Sure.
I know, Mike, you have like obviously a big background in gaming. Like I looked up your credits, and you have like 10, 15 years before you got into blockchain stuff of developing games. At least I don't know if the credits I was looking at was your full list, but I guess how did you transition from developing games into blockchain and crypto stuff?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, I started in the early 90s in terms of my game development experience. So I'm assuming that list isn't super up to date, but look, I think the thing that I always look at in my life is, so if you think of me as kind of what, I'm on the back nine of my career and all that fun stuff. And I just love what I do. And every day feels like a vacation. All that stuff is all true, but it's true because the thing that's always driven me from as soon as I was self-aware to understand how valuable it was to me was literally having a cause that's greater than yourself. Right. And that's how you live a meaningful life, is you do things that you give back to others all the time. And so I always found a real joy and a sense of fulfillment about building things that, kind of err on the side of the player, or building communities that, where you're really giving back all the time. And that, that if you give of yourself, time, attention, focus, you're a good listener, you have everybody's kind of larger best interests at heart, like that's a great life. And it really kind of came to my awareness in the free-to-play space, like 2010, 2011, 2012, when, MySpace gaming, Facebook gaming, oh, they're not really games, it's Farmville and it's software toys. Like, yeah, but there's still activities, and it engaged a whole new section of individuals, right? And so it's like, you're like, oh, that's just casual gaming. But yeah, casual gaming. But if you look at it, the people who are playing Farmville and Cityville and Mafia Wars and Marvel's Avengers Alliance and Gardens of Time and all those games on Facebook, it's a very hardcore gaming mentality. Like session lengths were, 51 minutes 3 times a day. Like that's a casual game mechanic, but it's a hardcore player mentality. And once you looked at those world of free to play games and realized that you could live operate your way to success, and this opens up this whole new business model, that it doesn't have to be console based. It doesn't have to be $65 at retail. It doesn't have to be all this friction, right? It's like, oh, it's downloadable. It's free to play. Like that's such a powerful thing for me. Once that switch went off in my head, I said, holy cow, I'm on the cusp of being future proof, right? I'm on the cusp of learning a skill set that nobody else in the industry has, because all my friends at, EA and Warner and Midway and, Take-Two and Capcom, they're like, free to play, what a terrible idea. That'll never work ever. You're in a failed market, send us your resume, because I'm sure you'll be looking in 6 months. Because they couldn't wrap their head around that, right? They're like, okay, it's free to play, right? But you're spending millions of dollars in development, right? And nobody's going to pay you, right? But if the people who pay is like 1% of the audience, right? But when they do pay you, they pay you like 25 cents or 49 cents or 9, right? Like, okay.
Yeah. The microtransaction stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look at League of Legends. League of Legends is free to play. It's one of, like, arguably the most popular game on the planet.
Right. And the interesting thing about League of Legends, it's free to play, but when you're spending, you're not getting any kind of performance increase at all. It's not even pay to win.
Yeah, it's all cosmetic. Yeah.
Right. You're leaning into the vanity. Like, oh, look at the skin I have. Let me flex on you, right? Like, and that works at a very, very high degree for them. And so, to answer your question about kind of what brought me into blockchain gaming, is like a lot of those feelings that I felt in 2010, 2011, 2012 was this whole shift in the model, this whole shift in how people are going to game. Like that spoke to me like at almost like a cellular level, like here we go. Like we're going to make everybody's lives better as a result of Web3 technology. And I can't wait to lead the charge on that, because I feel like I know kind of what that means, and that compels me. And so I'm going to push people into that world with content that kind of validates their use of free time with our content.
Do you remember your first impression of like crypto, or what was like the first exposure to that?
Well, it was Bitcoin right back in the 20-aughts. Like it was like there's that famous gift that went around at that StarCraft tournament, right, where the first prize got like 12 Bitcoins.
Yep.
And 10, but because they couldn't get any signups, because it was like people like, what a waste of time.
Yeah, wasn't the anniversary of the Bitcoin pizza guy like a few days ago? The guy who paid 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 pizzas.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like if you look at how do you get people to do something different, or how do you get them to opt into something? It's all tied to the incentive. And if the incentive isn't there, then you can't change the behavior. You can't get them to do something different than what they're currently doing. So it's all about kind of incentive based. So for me, the first experience was just kind of early Bitcoin and going, okay, I want to understand it. Mining, hash power, all that stuff. Like, okay, I sort of get it. But I never thought about that as a means for a backbone of a technology that could provide ownership to players around assets. And it wasn't until kind of the Axies of the world, if you will, came to be. And I'm like, holy cow. Like, I called up my buddy who, was here at Wax, and I said, what are you doing on the gaming side? I said, we're looking for somebody to come in and run our gaming effort. I raised my hand. I said, let's do this. And he said, are you serious? I'm like, 100%. He's like, great, let's go. And, the rest is history.
Yeah. And then on that same note, would you remember your first experience with NFT? Like the first time you've heard of and saw, because that must have been.
Yeah, so all the earned media around kind of CryptoPunks was, certainly caught my attention, but it didn't really to me. I was like everybody else, NFTs and art collections. Okay, I understand kind of collecting of digital assets that can appreciate, But it wasn't until Wax did the Street Fighter collection with the crafting and the blending and trying to do pack openings that had rarities that spoke to me as a game like, oh, I get that. I know what that is. I know how that works. And I know that people love to craft. I know they love to pull that slot machine handle to see what RNGesus is going to say to you at that point in time. Like yes. Those things were like very much appealed to me. And I said, hey, there's a whole kind of gaming crafting kind of meta that you're building. And they're like, absolutely. And it works. And we're feeding into it and people love it. And I'm like, and your art, so your art is compelling. You've got IP that people know. Capcom is very beloved in terms of obviously the Street Fighter franchise and all the other franchises that they like. It was a real confluence of kind of three different really objectively awesome things coming together. And the success that Wax saw that led into these collections, or the boom of the collections, really struck a chord with me. And that was what, February of 2021 or whenever that came out. I think it was a little over a year plus ago. And then collections kind of came and went, and then gaming became in vogue. And I think gaming's here to stay, because what's happening with gaming on the kind of the play and own kind of space or technology, there will be no game that doesn't have any kind of Web3 component in the next kind of 3 or 4 years. Nothing will ship without that. And I believe that with kind of every fiber of my being.
Yeah, it's definitely, that's what got us into it as well. Cause I mean, like Max was pretty early on like crypto kitties and stuff. And like, I just didn't get that. I was like, why would I spend my Ethereum on that? That seems like a scam or something. And it wasn't until we found Alien Worlds on Wax that I was like, oh, I can buy tools. And then also these tools change the way I play the game, and I can keep digging forever and hope to get a rare one, or I can buy one and immediately increase my output. And that was like, I don't know, as a lifelong gamer, that just clicked immediately. I was selling World of Warcraft accounts when I was in high school. So I understand there is a market for people that want to buy and sell stuff. But when you're selling World of Warcraft accounts, you can't put your account name on eBay or you get banned because it's against the terms of service. So like, oh, this is built into the games too. It's not like you're doing it sketchily behind the scenes and trusting.
Yeah, and having the exit too. Like, okay, I'm good. Like, I've played Alien Worlds. I'm kind of like, I'm over it. Now let me sell my tools and regain some of the value back. I think that piece as a gamer too. Like if I could spend months getting Thunder Fury in World of Warcraft and then sell it when I decide to get my life back, like that would be great. I could at least retain some value of all that
to
time.
Show
because the real value that you created was the time and energy that you put in to attain that goal. Now, Alien Worlds is a little bit different, but if you apply that to a broader gaming sense with World of Warcraft, I think that clicks in my mind. That was like the first kind of idea. Season tickets for sports, because I'm a big sports guy on the blockchain, and being able to sell stuff that I spent absurd amounts of time grinding in a game that I could somehow flip for value to regain some cash value for my time input.
Yeah, for me, it was, you know, to really date myself. You go back to Diablo 1, right? And there was everybody always wanted the Archangel's Staff of the Armageddon, and I was a sorcerer, and so that was kind of the end game weapon. It had all the right prefixes and all the right suffixes, and so that's what I wanted. And people were selling them, and it cost you 40 stones of Jordan, which was a +1 attributes ring, and that was literally the currency at which things were bought and sold between players. And so I would go onto eBay and I would find one for sale and I would buy it again, because the marketplace lived outside the game. And then I went, and for the next month and a half, I grinded Stones of Jordan, traded for them, grinded for them, bartered for them. The staff never dropped for me because, again, it was a rare roll, or it was a unique roll, right? And so, but I was literally accumulating an in-game currency, which was a jeweled item, to buy another, and then to make that transaction happen, you had to meet somebody on a server. It was kind of the sketchy digital dark alley where you're like, if he's way higher than me, like he could jump me, all my shit would drop. He'd loot me. He'd loot my corpse, and I would have nothing to say. Like, it was really suspect, right?
Virtual mugging.
Exactly.
Yeah. Meet me in front of Deckard Cain so I know you're legit.
Meet me in the back alley of.
By the way, I watched a documentary on the voice creation of the voice actor that did Deckard Cain. That's how much of a gaming nerd I am. It was like 3 weeks ago. Welcome. You know, that whole, like, it's fascinating if you enter it, but so that comment really lands with me. But the point was, right, is that somebody owned something in game. They wanted to sell it to somebody else in game. That other person in game had to earn a currency in game and then make a trade. And there was so much friction and so many barriers to that happening, and so much risk, right? You talking about getting virtual money, like that absolutely happened. You saw it all the time. Now, I happened to buy this from literally you had to go into eBay to see what the seller's reputation was, right? Won't get jumped, you know, don't need to bring a friend, like literally all that happened. But now we live in a world that's
So awesome.
trustless and permissionless, that you can do all those things on the up and up. I mean, I bought gold in World of Warcraft, right? A number of times, because I'm like, okay, I don't want to do the 25 daily quest that earned me the, let's call it 3 million gold or whatever it was, because that's 2 hours of my life. And what do I make an hour? And how much is 2 hours of my life worth? It's worth way more than what they're selling this gold for. So I have to meet some random dude on a random server, and it's like, okay, let's keep this between us. But I was happy to do that. I was happy to spend the real world money to save the time, because in the game, I just wanted to run instances, right? I wanted to run Max Ramus. I wanted to do all the Wrath of the Lich King content, the Burning Crusade content. I didn't want to do that daily grind.
Or even like I have a friend who's been playing for 2 years and he just got me into the game. I don't want to grind for 2 years to catch up. I'm fine with spending a little bit of money.
Some people would want to save the time. Like if $100 to me may be negligible. So if I could just get to the point where I can play with my friends and spend $100 to it, I'll do it, whatever.
Yeah, and being a big WoW player, the thing I'll tell you that I say in a lot of these interviews that really, really strikes a chord with me is that, there's that time on game stat in the kind of the account settings.
Oh yeah, /played.
Yeah, and you kind of hover over it. You kind of want to know. You kind of don't want to know. Like you really don't want to know, but yet you're so like I played WoW for 7 or 8 years. I played Final Fantasy 11 for 9 or 10 years. Like I'm really deeply committed to these things, and I do love gaming, but I so didn't want to know what that was. Now we're looking at that, that counter, that aggregator of your experience as a means to kind of say, this is how much value you've created for yourself, opposed to just like, wife, spouse, mother, whatever, stop playing those GD video games. And, that whole thing's like, Mom.
Yeah, that's a really good point in Diablo, though. Like you see that there's we got a dog on screen.
yeah, my sister.
You see the demand there, even with all those barriers of trying to connect to someone on like a website, and there's like all this risk in game and outside of game. People still did it, right? So even with all those barriers, there's still a demand that players are willing to do that. So, if you just streamline the process, then you just made an already existing mechanism just better. And so in something as simple as Diablo or Diablo 2 compared to now 15 years later or whatever, that demand only goes up exponentially as the games get more complex.
It's a behavior that players have always wanted as soon as they had stuff that they no longer needed. Stuff that they desired that they didn't want to spend the time to get. I just want to win. So I'd like to buy this now. I'd like to sell this now. I'd like to give it to a friend. I'd like them to not have to spend 2 years of their life. I'd like to, because again, that's Max, you bring up a great point. There's a lot of social good in I've given something to somebody I like that they can now play with me. So that makes me feel good about myself. That builds on our friendship. But now I'm gaming with one of my boys, and we're now at a similar enough level that it's like, I have to power level him, for the next month. And who wants to?
And both of us don't want to do that. We both just want to play at this level. Yeah. So exactly.
Yeah, particularly as I've gotten older, like when I was like a teenager, I loved the grind because I had nothing but time on my hands. But like now, in my 30s, I still like gaming, but my time's a little bit more I have to go to work, do all these things, right? So like if I could speed up the process and I have disposable income that I didn't have when I was a teenager, I think older gamers definitely like that ability. And a lot of, OG PC console gamers have now grown up to be our age, so
for sure.
I think the demographics and of the gaming culture has kind of elongated quite a bit into an older generation.
I also really like what Autumn Toy said in the comments about the World of Warcraft South Park episode. Because I watched that episode and I loved it. And they had exactly the sort of 1,000 truth concept is really fucking cool. But like in reality, when you're playing World of Warcraft, there isn't one sword of 1,000 truth. There is one for anybody who puts in the fucking grind. And like now with the evolution of like those digital assets being NFTs, there can be a single item shared by a community of like millions of players. And only one of them can have it. And if that person's offline, then so is their inventory. Like that's really fucking cool. And
lending and deferred listings and things like that. It's a very real possibility. And again, it's the whole notion that you have ownership of something. I don't own it as a developer. You as the player, you've earned it, or you've crafted it, or it dropped for you, or you bought it. It should be up to you to decide what it is that you want to do with it. That's why when you hear me talk kind of last 2 or 3 weeks, I was talking about now play and own. I think play to earn or play and earn is terrible. I think it's the worst nomenclature in the world. I think it doesn't represent what the movement is about. I think it's easy to attack that because people really do like the challenge that we have with our crypto bro related audience today, it's all about kind of speculation and gambling. It's not gamers, right? And that's the disappointing thing. And so it's all focusing on the earn and not about the play. And there's very little play, right? And so we're learning a lot of painful, powerful lessons that we're not going to make those same mistakes again. But people are, we always say if everybody shows up to the exact same thing for the exact same reason, with the exact same expected outcome, with the exact same ROI, then it's going to be this optimized race to the bottom, right? And that's why all these things crash and they fail, because everybody's doing the same thing for the same reasons with the same return. And you're just going to get undercut, right? And token utility is hard, and you got to get them to care more about what they're doing, not why they're doing it. Yeah. And so the problem is, though, this paradigm that exists today has conditioned players to care about one thing and one thing only, and that's how much money can I make. I literally had a guy in Discord an hour ago said, well, I had to play this other game to make up for all the money I've lost in your game. I'm like, first of all, I could care less, or I could not care less about you, quote unquote, losing money in my game. Second of all, your profile shows you actually don't own any assets. So I don't know where you've lost money. Third of all, that's not my job. My job is not to guarantee you that you make money. This game's been out for 2 months.
Like, you're not like a fiduciary.
No, seriously. It's like, it's so funny.
A game. It's never was an investment. It was never an ROI promise. And that's like Oga in the chat is saying there's wax is filled with ROI expectations. I feel like in general, that's just the crypto space is filled with ROI expectations. And those expectations seem to be held by people who don't necessarily understand how ROI works. And like, even after like Bitcoin Brawlers, for example, had like adjusted its output to like help like maintain the economy and not keep it from collapsing, the ROI dropped to like a year or something, and people were like upset. It's like, oh, it's like
less than that. Someone had said like, hey, what the hell? Like my ROI is like 160 days now. It's like, dude, you double your money in like 6 months. I feel like that's a very, very great expectation if you hold yourself out into any other financial market or any other investment. Doubling your money in 6 months is excellent.
Yeah, I think that's a general thing I see across the entire like crypto space. It's still a very immature space full of people who honestly have immature expectations.
We could do a whole show on kind of player expectations. It's kind of funny. The irony is Scotty Wida, who you're talking about, the big adjustment went from like a 4 to 5 day ROI, because we wanted kind of the lower end players to have a nice kind of upgrade path, and we really thought this game was all going to be about brawl accumulation. But because gold was selling for, again, the players set the prices, not us. So gold was selling for $200, $300, $400 a bar. And Scotty's value, like everybody crafted Scotty's, and then that created this kind of unhealthy balance that was an unintended consequence. And like, we should have anticipated that. Well, no, like when gold is selling for $9 versus $400, you can't tell me to, model every single kind of permutation of that. And so when we don't set the prices and we don't set the behaviors, we monitor them and adjust accordingly. And Scotty Wide-Eye's ROI went from like that 4 to 5 days to like 32 days. Like, it wasn't terrible. And at the end of that 32-day ROI, and this is based on like an $18 to $20 price per bar of gold. Yeah. The fact is, you still had the asset.
Yeah.
So you made your money back and you still have the asset, right? And people are like, oh, I've lost all this money. Like, oh, did you sell at less than you paid? Well, no. Well, so then you didn't really lose money. No, I lost money. Well, how? Well, I'm not making as much as quickly. I'm like, well, that's not losing money. That's not making.
Yeah, you haven't realized that loss yet.
Yeah. And you're also, we're playing a game here. This isn't like your job. You haven't like transitioned careers into being a brawler. And now we're suddenly like, oh, I'm out of money and now I can't pay my rent. And like, if that's how you've structured yourself, you can't blame like the development team for that. That's
I think the other side of the argument though is, and I'm not saying Blockchain Brawlers does this, but like in the play to earn realm, I think there is a certain burden on the team itself that some of them do promise ROI, and that's how they market the game. And so I think that is the fundamental problem with the play to earn mantra and the play and earn kind of buzzwords, is that they're like, yeah, play our game, you'll make like $1,000 a week, and they actually use that as a selling tool to get people and build hype. And so I don't blame players for holding people accountable when they set those expectations. And so I do think there is a certain greed factor on the developer side sometimes when they try to just cash grab and say, well, yeah, of course you play my game. I promise my token's going to buy you a house. You know, like who wouldn't want to jump in on that? And also who wouldn't be pissed when
really
someone's making broad stroke?
Right. Really smart people that know how to investigate a project. First of all, let me get this straight. You're going to invest, quote unquote, money that you can't afford to lose in a team that won't tell you who they are or what they've done, in a game that you've never seen perform, and you're going to buy these things sight unseen. Like there's just, if you go down the checklist of what makes sense in any kind of normal kind of decision-making process, like nope. Like, why are you doing this? Like at the end, like, yep, I'm still in. It's like, based on what? Like it just doesn't make any kind of financial sense at all. The thing that's interesting, I saw a collection get blacklisted by Atomic Hub yesterday because they promised a 25-day ROI. And they absolutely blacklisted them from their secondary market. That's one. Two, the other thing that happens is when developers have irresponsibly guided people to an ROI, like the less savvy players, like, okay, I'm 21 days in, I'm going to sell everything because I've supposedly broken even, and now I'm going to get my and they may have not broken even. But what happens is everybody has been guided this expectation of 3 weeks in we've broken even, or a month in we've broken even. That's what the developer manager expectation. But I know that I've been playing much play and what are performance of the assets. They sort of said, hey, it's a 30-day ROI, jump in. They're like, okay, great. And then 30 days later, everything gets sold. It's like, so I must have broken even because that's what they said the ROI was. Well, maybe, but maybe not, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's so weird. And I always say that earning is a result. It is not a goal.
Yeah.
If you play a game long enough because it's fun and it's interesting, the community's great, and you're having a good time competing head to head, and you're winning competitions, and you're emotionally invested in what you're doing, the earning piece will happen. Like that is a result of a really well-built, well-produced, well-live operated game. Without question, that will happen.
Yeah.
That's what you need to. That's what you need to look for. That's what you need to lock into. If you come in saying how much can I make, how quickly, like I actually want zero of those players because it's such the wrong mentality to come in with. And look, we welcome everybody, and we open ourselves to a lot of criticisms because we do the same thing that other people have done. But we sort of said, well, we're going to do things different. We're going to pitch this really long-ranging vision. We're going to put out an aggressive roadmap. We're going to have real PvP built by real game designers. It's going to be super fun. And by the way, I played the PvP game. It is so goddamn fun. It really is, right? Just at its core, it's so compelling. It's like, I wish it was out yesterday kind of thing. It won't be out for a little bit. But if people are patient and they just ride with us and know that, I'm very public about who I am and what I've done, I promise you, I'll give you something that is way more fun to do with your time than what you're doing on your mobile device, on your Netflix account, on whatever. Like, here's a real good use of your free time. Play the PvP portion of our game and come in and crack people's skulls and take a risky position and wager and have all these and work your way up the ladder. Like, we're going to have the same kind of ranking system that League has, iron, bronze, silver, gold, diamond, platinum, challenger, master, or master division, grandmaster, and challenge. Like, we're going to have all that. We're going to have these big global competitions. We're going to have esports. We're going to do live streaming. We're going to do all these things. Like, that's where this is going to go. And we said, invest into that, your time and your money. People are like, nope, mining phase. Where's the brawl? Let me sell it. Let me sell gold. I'm like, you save your stuff. You're going to need it. I don't care. I'm mining. I'm selling. I'm mining. I'm selling. It's like, that's not the point. So we shrunk the token cap from 1 trillion to 1 billion and said, okay, fine. We think you're behaving irresponsibly, potentially, and we want to put a hard cap on this. So you value something that is scarce, and then hopefully that will help the token price, and that will help all the assets appreciate.
Yeah, I do really like. I saw people were asking, I think the team directly about like what the value specifically of certain assets within Blockchain Brawlers was, and I thought the answer was fantastic. Where the answer was, we don't assume any value. They're gaming items. It's to play a game. They're pieces in a game. The value is the gameplay and that stuff. And it's like, that's what it is. That's what it should be, because it's not. Yeah, exactly. It's not like a financial protocol or some type of like, ROI machine. But yeah, like people are already saying, that is definitely like kind of the sentiment in the broader space, is just like, when Lambo.
When Lambo, we're all going to make it. Like, all these things are such like, wild swings of the pendulum, right? Like, we're all going to make it, meaning the opposite is we're all going to die, versus when am I going to have my dream car, versus when can I, like, it's so weird. This literally this binary kind of polar ends of the spectrum kind of thinking. We very much believe that, we have to take a game where ownership of, virtual items and currency, have a real high level of utility. And when we do that and we wrap it all up inside of a player-driven economy that manages towards sustainability over the long term, that preserves against inflation. And that kind of game can run for a really, really long time. And when we do that, players will stick around and play this game for way more than an ROI. And that's really what we're focused on. Now, the downside is we can't show that today. We can talk about it. And people can choose to believe us or not believe us. And if they don't believe us, that's fine. Teach their own, go on, and God bless. But the ones who stick around, and we're going to do closed beta play tests with real people in our community and get them into play just the bare bones kind of, PvP game itself. It won't have all the bells and whistles. It won't have all the visual flair that people go, oh, dude, I just DDT'd you, onto a mat filled with thumbtacks. And that looked really painful. Like all those things are also coming, right? So we do all these things in phases, and we want people to have faith and believe in us, and they won't believe in us unless we're able to do what we say when we say. So credibility is a big part of how we kind of think about our world and how we spend time building equity in the relationship that we have with the community.
Yeah,
I do think that your history kind of speaks for itself, though. Like when I vet new projects, I look up the team, I look up have they made a game, and there's a lot of teams in this space building that have never made a video game before, and it's just like, I don't know, it's pretty hard to make video games, and you can be good at making video games and still make a bad one. So like, chances a lot of these clicker games transitioning into a real game are not great in my opinion. But Brawlers, I am very confident there will be a real game because you've delivered many, many games in the past, and you have the skills to back that up.
Thank you. Yeah, look, not only do you not know if they've ever built any games before that, you also don't know who they are. Like some teams don't even tell you who they are. And then some teams get away with, former employees at Blizzard or at this company or that company that you've heard of. Like, right, but what do they do at those companies? You can have really non-impactful roles or perform really, really poorly at great companies. That doesn't give you any pedigree either. It's like, here's me, here's my gaming bio. You want to talk about every single one of these projects? I'll say what I did, why I did it. And like we have to be very public about this. And look, I get socially engineered every single day. Like that's the risk that you run. Random people saying, hey, I've got a link for you to click on, or, in LinkedIn. I mean, it comes from Discord, LinkedIn, Telegram. They come at you from all sides, and you have to be ready for that. Like you have to expose yourself and put yourself out there for the greater good of the player base. Like this is who I am and this is what I do.
Yeah, it's a calculated risk, but it shows it's something that builds trust in a space that is, still the Wild West. And so trust goes a long way. And so, for me as a collector or someone that wants to spend my hard-earned cash on your stuff, like that is part of my vetting process because no one else is going to do it for me. Now, one day there will be hopefully, like some sort of authority, but for right now, there is no centralized authority in a decentralized space by design.
Yeah.
So, being your own bank, being your own source of trust takes effort on the individual's part. I think that's a learning curve. And, a big part of what we do to vet projects is who are you? Because, that risk does have the reward of like, if I know who you are, I have potential legal recourse, and that gives me peace of mind, and that gives me a sense of understanding, and goes a long way.
I also think,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just the way that you handle yourself in Discord is a lot better than a lot of projects. Like a lot of projects, if somebody says anything negative, they get banned immediately. Like they can't even have like people that actually have good feedback are getting banned just because they want all they want is positive feedback. And they're like, that's FUD. You're like hurting the project. You're hurting people's investments. And I see you in there like responding to people who are saying stuff that's not even true, but just like fudding, but you don't ban them. You actually like logically respond to them. And I don't know, I really appreciate that. And also like you're the head of Wax Studios. You could hire somebody else to be doing that for you, but you actually care. So you're doing it yourself. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks. Look, I think there's a real need for us to set the tone with our first project, right? Like you could literally delegate this, but I think Wax Studios, and we haven't put out a game before, so you don't know who we are, you don't know what we're all about, you don't know what we believe in. So I want to set that tone, right? Like I want to say this is what Wax is all about. We're transparent, we're open. The banning thing is really interesting. Like I've seen that too. I've also seen projects ban people who talk about other projects, but Funko Pops and Hot Wheels and Scooby, like it's talked about so much. Like when I go review Discord, and I have to wade through all the Funko conversations in Blockchain Brawlers until eventually I get to like, oh, good, we can talk about Brawlers again, and they laugh with me and so forth. Like it's all in good spirit because you want to build a community, right? You can't be so. There you go. I just
got my renewable Iron Maiden. I'm stoked.
Perfect. Case in point. but the reality is that we give people a lot of rope, and we try to take disagreements with a healthy dose of curiosity, like, oh, why do you think that, or why do you believe that, right? Like it's a chance to engage and educate, not to kind of shame them. And mostly they are wrong. And I've only banned one person one time ever in all of Discord, and that's because they were making personal attacks. Like at some point you have to draw the line. Like, look, you can say bad things about the project. You can say bad things about the company. You can say bad things about how we should have balanced the economy differently or better or what have you. But the reality is like you start attacking people on a personal level. That's where we have to draw the line, because that's uncalled for. Like we're all adults, and childish attacks aren't going to be tolerated. But we're very open, and we're very willing to hear kind of all sides of the argument. We're willing to embrace people, of different opinions, and people may be angry. It's fine. We don't make them feel happy by banning them. We're like, oh, tell me why you're unhappy. Let's talk about that.
It is interesting to put in perspective, because like think of any other experience where you can get in a public channel and talk directly to a development team like in real time. There are very few experiences in life where you can go, hey, let me get a Discord channel and tell Jeff Bezos how he's sucking right now.
It's so funny. The downside to being so public is when we do these AMAs, these Twitter Spaces and whatnot. The people who are on my social team going, I don't know what the point of this is. Every day is an AMA with you, as like that's okay. We're always creating new content. We're always, the roadmap's always evolving and stuff. We can fill the air, but we try to be very visible. We try to be very comprehensive. We try to not take the less is more approach. Like we want people to know, like, we're here with you. The one mistake I think the one change I would have made is I wouldn't have released Brawlers at the end of March. I would have waited till PvP was done. So you buy your collections and they work just like the Board API Club or Metasaurs or any, pick your collection of choice, right? CryptoPunks. And we said, okay, here's your Brawlers, your PFP collection, and the game will be out at some point. The thing that I guess that I never realized is just how unbelievably patient, crypto owners are, right? Like people who opted into, like I bought land in Aftermath Island, like 9 months ago, and they're like, yeah, we'll have a game out, like in a year. I'm maybe being a little bit evocative, but Sandbox, same thing. Like there's no rush to get content in the hands of players. Peter Molyneux very famously raised $153 million from the Landmark for his land sale on Ethereum. And if you know anything about Peter Molyneux's development history, that game is probably 3 years away. And yet he's got your money, so he doesn't feel any pressure to get done. But in my mind, I'm like, well, let's get content in the hands of players. Let's get them talking about it. Let's do all these things. And in reality, like all these, money hungry folks, ROI folks came in and, kind of just earned the currency, sold the currency, and then said, this project's dead. It's like, this project is so not dead. Like we're literally not even 2 months in. Like we're just about to hit the gas pedal here in the next, few months.
Yeah. To that end, if someone is brand new to Blockchain Brawlers, what would be your advice for like the way to get started? For like,
it feels like a nice slow curve, just hanging in my sweet spot of my zone there. So we're doing a big pack sale on Wednesday, and we always said we're keeping the audience intentionally small on day one because we want to make sure the economy's right. We want to make sure things are balanced. We want to make sure that when we bring people in mass, that they're coming into a really well thoughtful, bug-free experience. And so we feel like now we've got a really healthy gold equilibrium exchange. We think the Brawl token is going to start to perform really well. Some of the recent changes we've made, we've got increased token utility coming up. So now's a good time to really kind of step on the gas in terms of user acquisition. And so we're doing a big pack sale on Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, where we're selling an entry-level character that has, again, a pretty decent ROI, and you get a free ring with them. You get a 0.1% of 1% chance that it's a legendary brawler, which is worth thousands and thousands of dollars on the secondary market. We're giving one of two different swag kits that come with it, which have value, that look really, really cool. You'll see the Neon Freak swag kit on the Rusty Klutz, the legendary brawler. Is there another visual there? Is there the Living Dead? I think we have Living Dead. Yeah, there's Living Dead. That's the Living Dead on Mike Yellerbelly. So you can get that, and you can put a skin on him right away. And so all of a sudden he's looking cool. We're like, well, it doesn't have any gameplay value. Well, we're going to have leaderboards and tournaments and all these things where you can flex on folks with your different aesthetics. So there's all these things that we're doing now. It felt like the right time for the new player to come in. So the price point tomorrow morning will be $50 effectively, and you'll get a lot of value for that. And we're going to bring in kind of 6,000 new players, we hope, into the game over the course of the next few days, the next few weeks. And
So is that the number of packs? 6,000?
6,000, yeah.
5,000
5,000 sale and 1,000 to be given away on fine shows such as yours.
And that pack would be, it's like a character and a ring and everything you need to like get going and start
leveling up. Ring, everything you need to get going, plus a swag kit, which you actually don't need to get going. If you want to sell it on the open market, you're free to sell it. If you want to use it, you're free to use it. It's completely up to you because you own the asset. We do not own it. You do.
Is there a white list? Is there any kind of approaches to try
there's no white list. It's
work against, bot buyers and things of that nature? That's always a concern with high profile drops like this.
Yeah, look, I think the thing that we like so everything that we do, you can ask yourself, what is Wax trying to test and learn this time? So every time we do something, we do it a little bit different. And we do it with an understanding that we want to learn or we're informed from the past. So the last swag kit giveaway we did for pink battle tag holders, and we made it, kind of first come, first serve if you owned a PBT. And if you didn't own a PBT, we opened up an hour later, the bots came in. Okay, now, so what we're doing is we're doing 6,000 packs. We're doing one per wallet. So that feels like a pretty good idea. And the flippers will be less encouraged to come in and buy a pack and then list it for 2x on the secondary market because there's going to be 6,000 of them in the world. And right now we think we have 1,700 players. So we're going to maybe 4x our audience. So if a flipper goes to buy something on the secondary market, but there's plenty to be bought at retail, then they're going to think twice about doing that. If we limit one per account, to have a botnet kind of log in and try to buy a pack times, $50 times however many, if they want to get 1,000, like that's an expensive endeavor. And I think that we're giving them pause to think about how they behave. We think this has good value. We don't think this has amazing value. This is not Scotty Wide-Eye day one. This is Mike Yellerbelly after we've kind of balanced the economy. And so there's a lot of give and take there. We think this is probably our best kind of sale today, and we'll see how it does, right? We will see.
They only work with the new artifact ring.
Yeah.
So existing players can't use this in their current setup. So it's not like a huge incentive for current players to buy them. But Toon does have a question. It's like, do you have an official stance on multi-accounting? Like, if I own 2 Scotties right now, am I allowed to make another account and buy this and play, or is that against the rules?
You are. It is against the rules. You're allowed to do it, and we're allowed to take your stuff from you if we think you're doing it in a criminal way. Like we see botnets with 4, 5, 6, 700 different wallets, right? Which is not as intended. It's almost like, the thing that I tell people, we look at it like drug dealing. Like I can't bust every drug deal in the US and selling drugs is illegal. But the cartels are a problem. The individual guy selling a dime bag or an 8-ball is not really the thing that kind of the federal government, if you will, concerns themselves with. So I look for kind of the most egregious offenses of this and do that. I will tell you our position is on not only on WaxCloud Wallet, but on Blockchain Brawlers both. So there's 2 different places where you look at the terms of service. It says automated play, scripted play, multi-account play. Like all these things are absolutely forbidden. It's in the agreement that a lot of our players, if you're a WaxCloud Wallet user, you've opted into this twice, and we have the right to come and freeze your account and freeze your assets. It really doesn't matter what the atomic standard says. Like you violated our rules, kind of first and foremost. And we have the right to do with your assets as we see fit. And people say, well, that's not really crypto. That's not decentralized. That's a central authority. And you're playing God. It's like, right. But we said, here are the rules of engagement. Like literally, you have to abide by these rules to play this game.
Yeah, the difference is like you're entering into a contract by saying like, I choose to play this game at the risk that if I break these rules, these things will happen. So I mean, if that's the way it's communicated, I don't really see how you could say, oh, what the hell? I can't believe you would do this, that, and the other. It's like you knew what you're getting into, and you knew what the consequences are going to be.
You say you knew what you're getting into, but I'll tell you they didn't know because nobody reads the terms of service. But it's in there. And we've been very upfront about that. It's in the WaxCloud Wallet terms of service, and because I read them both again last week just to make sure, because we're going to get a lot of questions around this. And we always do, like, what's your official position and can you take our stuff? It's like, well, you broke the rules and we have the right to do with it as we see fit,
Yeah, Jeff read them. Jeff's a lawyer.
I actually read the rules because I was temporarily multi-accounting because I had my Scotty and then I made a second Scotty. Right. And now I have them both on one ring, but like people in the Discord were suggesting I do it. And I was like, well, I don't want to get like banned immediately because I multi-accounted in Alien Worlds, got banned there and learned my lesson, but it was like everybody suggesting it. So I did it, but it sounds like you're not really looking for someone with 2 accounts. You're looking for people with like
100
many accounts abusing the system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems
the
like
problem,
more
the
weird.
problem that we have with these bot farms, candidly, is that they don't really allow, like, they are the ones kind of leading the undercutting efforts on the gold. So if you look at any one point in time, you can have one singular wallet holder put 300 pieces of gold up on Atomic Hub at 1 penny less than what kind of well-intended kind of, owners are putting it up at. And they're literally just kind of keeping the market depressed, but they're also keeping, one guy or gal is going out saying, I'm going to suck up all the revenue tied to this exploit this rule that I'm breaking, opposed to, me. I've never sold anything in the game. I still have every piece of Brawl I've ever made and every gold NFT I put back into my roster. So it doesn't really impact me necessarily, but it does impact, well-intended players, right? And like I said, you get this undercutting business. It's just terrible, and it's not healthy, and it's really disappointing to see that,
Yeah. I feel like on the centralization versus decentralization topic there, as like a long time like crypto enthusiast and like DeFi fan and everything, like decentralization is kind of like everything to me when it comes to finance protocols, when it comes to exchange protocols and stuff like that. But we're talking about a game. It makes a lot of sense to run a game in a central way, because the meta of the game is going to evolve. All of the game will evolve over time, and it makes a lot more sense to structure such a thing with a central authority behind the thing.
You need that, by the way. If you just left the economy balancing and the features up to a DAO, it'd be the most bang. Like, people like, yay, we have control, and we made terrible decisions. Like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's another fun buzzword in the NFT space people throw around.
I think the only way to do that would be like start it very centralized, and then very slowly over the course of multiple years, maybe transition the voting into like the community. But realistically, the community aren't like game developers. And honestly, if you listen to your community, the people who are complaining or talking the loudest are the ones who are asking for exploitable ROI faucets that just are not sustainable, and like they're mad because they want ROI in 2 days. And if you listen to the community and let them decide the trajectory will be, how do the people who are in it today make their money back in the next 2 days, and who cares what happens on the third day? Like,
it's so funny. I have so many great anecdotes and things to share in that regard. The couple that I think that I always go back to, one is when Scotty was performing really irresponsibly, like from a fiduciary standpoint, nobody said, you better fix this. Like, it's going to completely create. People are like, yeah, let's go, son. Yeah. Scotty gang, Scotty's the king, Scotty this, bow down. Like, they're so happy about it. They're so unbelievable. Nobody said this is a game killer. Like, this is not sustainable. And if you don't fix this, we're all losing all of our money all the time. So we went in and we made the change. It was for the right reasons, and we saw the behavior adjustment that we wanted to see. The other thing you talk about kind of the noisy minority, what people are saying. Yeah, everybody's going to quit. Scotty's going to get sold in mass. Like, this thing is going to go to, like, literally, I watched, the Atomic Hub. I watched crafting kind of analytics. I watched all these things. None of those things. And everybody's going to quit, by the way, which is the other one. We lost maybe 10% of our audience in the kind of because that change was April 18th, and now it's May 24th. May 24th. Like, we lost up until last week's change, maybe 8 to 9% of our audience. So not everybody left. And since that time, we've gained back. We're almost at where we were pre-adjustment. So the audience is almost as big as it was. We're almost at the all-time high from a daily active user standpoint, which shows that people didn't leave, shows that people didn't quit. And there were 6,000 Scotties pre-change, maybe 200 changed hands. So for an asset that was so terrible that nobody's going to use, 5% maybe flipped, like not 50%, not even 10%. Right?
Yeah, I remember when those changes were published, we talked about it on stream too, and we were like, our takeaway was like, great, this was broken and they're fixing it 2 weeks in instead of letting it run for fucking months and months.
Yeah, and if you let it run, it'll just get worse and it'll be even harder to fix, so you kind of have to rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, the thing I told people, it's way harder to resuscitate a dead economy.
Yeah.
Like, we could have let that run for 2 months, and now, gold is at, 50 cents and Brawl is at a tenth of a penny. And like, oh, now we're going to fix it. Like, where were you a month ago? Like, we acted really, really quickly, and we acted swiftly. And the one criticism that's maybe fair is that you should have planned for that, because we did run a bunch of different scenarios. But we always thought that Brawl would get to a level that it's clear the path for progress, the path for earning, the path for growth was all tied to a Brawl accumulating lineup, right? A lot of Colts, a lot of Johnnies, a lot of 101s if you can, not a lot of Scotties. But when gold was priced so expensive, like we always thought gold would be $50, right? Like we thought, okay, that feels about right. Like we did the recipe crafting, we did the earning. We saw where the pinch points were in kind of, really regular play. We said, okay, the low end of the market will feed the high end. And then at some point, the high end will be self-sustaining on gold. But then as they really progress, they'll get pinched again. So these wonderful kind of sinks and faucets that existed. But people are like, nope, we're just all Scotty all the time. Like we did not anticipate that. And you know what? They said, we probably should have, and they're probably right. We should have. We didn't model that scenario. We also didn't model gold would be $300 a bar. Like in what world does that make any sense? Like it just never dawned on us to assume this unbelievable scenario where gold is selling for, nearly 10x what we thought it should retail for.
Yeah, we also told people in our stream, we're like, be careful entering right now. It seems like it's in a bubble. This seems like farmer's world when this is not sustainable. Like you can't just always have a 2 or 3 day ROI. So just be careful with entering. I told people straight up, I'm like, if you buy a Scotty right now, you are gambling. That is not as much of an investment as a gamble that you'll be able to make your money back before it collapses. And I don't know. I think you guys did a good job. And also like the short-sighted thing is, your Scotty's not going to have a 3-day ROI if the price of Brawl and gold is dropping by 50% every day. So it's like the entire economy collapses. That 3-day ROI is no longer 3 days, and it's just going to keep extending as the economy collapses, and it's going to ruin it for everybody. So I really appreciated it. Even as someone running Scotties, like I had 2 Scotties, so I was like, oh, this affects me, but.
Yeah, look, I'm sure you're doing pretty well, or you did pretty well, and you continue to kind of get positive gains on a daily basis. The other thing that we didn't anticipate is people sell in a really unintelligent way, right? You can do limit orders, you can do sell at market. Like people are selling these giant chunks of Brawl at once, opposed to many smaller chunks. So when they sell a giant chunk of Brawl, we've seen a 1.2 million chunk of Brawl sell. We've seen multiple we saw in one day 2 different 500,000 chunks of Brawl. Like when you sell that larger volume, the price is going to drop 10 to 15, 20% to handle that transaction. And what we're seeing is that to be that massive dump of that Brawl at one time, pull the price way down to fill that order. And then all day long, it would tick back up right to where, and then you almost get to where it was, and somebody do another massive chunk of, and it would drop again. You're like, oh my God, the token isn't performing. The actual token utility, token sinks are pretty decent. They could be better, and there's more utility coming. But there's this real irresponsible selling. It almost felt like it was maybe somebody being mad at Wax and trying to get back at us, doing things kind of manipulating the market the other way, which was really unfortunate. But the selling on the secondary, on the centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges was not anything that we anticipated, because you're actually costing yourself money. When you sell 1 million chunk of Brawl opposed to 10, 100,000 chunks of Brawl, you're literally taking money out of your own pocket, like without question. Like the market can absorb 1 million, 10 chunks at a time, but it can't absorb 1 chunk of 1 million. Like it just doesn't work that way.
There's not enough liquidity on the books to make that big of a sale. We do have a question that I think we should address. It says, as a new person, what is the difference between Scotty and a new brawler? And I said it's an artifact brawler. It only works in the artifact rings. But then they asked, is there a way to work my way up, sell Brawl, and buy a Scotty eventually?
Or is that the meta for how to play, I guess?
Well, it's kind of a little bit. So the answer is you can do both, right? You can play just your Mike Yellerbelly till the end of time, and you can have a pretty decent experience, and you can get access to PvP, which is, you have to have NFTs to get into PvP, where we think is the real win, the real rewards, the real prizes, the real experience, real community growth, real kind of gamemanship is going to live in that PvP mode. So you can certainly do that and just operate in a vacuum. He does not perform as well as, like, Scotty's the king of gold making, and Mike Yellerbelly makes barely enough gold just to craft a ring every 75 uses, right? Like he's got a 2% drop. So in 75 uses, he should get 1.5 bars if the RNG gods are on your side. So he's enough to sustain over the course of a month, but he makes no gold. He also, the nice thing we do for the early players, we don't have to teach them the concept of healing, right? So people go, oh, when should I heal and why should I heal? And healing's really expensive. It is, but Mike Yellerbelly never needs to be healed. He makes 8 gross Brawl every single match. There's no healing. Now there's ring depreciation that comes out of that, right? But there's no healing cost to be paid. He gets his 8 Brawl. People go, wow, he makes way more than Scotty. Actually, Scotty makes 61 Brawl per match and Mike makes 8. The difference is it costs you 50 Brawl to heal Scotty. So Scotty makes 11, Mike makes 8. But, because of, the ring depreciation on a common ring is like 9 Brawl per. And the depreciation on an artifact ring is like 5. And so the net is 3 brawl versus 2 brawl. So Mike Yellerbelly actually makes, 1 more brawl per match than Scotty does, but doesn't make nearly as much gold. He's also a third the price. So that's all been factored in. We think it's balanced correctly. We think it's a wonderful experience. I think the early ROI calcs, Mezuba, who's a great community kind of economist, pegged his ROI somewhere between 26 to 30 days, depending on price of gold, price of brawl, all these things. And so whether that's true or not, the community will decide. But that's how he is built to perform on day one.
So Mike will work in the PvP just like the other brawlers.
He will. He's a ticket to ride, so to speak. If you don't have a brawler NFT or an analog to a brawler NFT, you cannot play the PvP game at all. And that's really where the joy comes in this product.
So Scrawn, my path would be, I would probably try to sell the extra brawl and then buy gold and then get an equal amount to craft a Scotty. I'm doing the opposite on my Scotty. I sell my gold and buy brawl because I have too much gold, not enough brawl. So I've been selling my gold so I can get enough to brawl. Then I got the legendary ring. I actually have a question for you, Mike. Are you ever planning on doing another Scotty burn event like in the future? Will you consider reopening it? Because I would love to be able to burn my Scotty, but I did not have enough at the time earned to do it.
Oh, what a bummer. Yeah, look, we thought that we would burn a whole lot of gold and because a lot of people were clamoring for it. And not a lot of people burn Scotties to get to the berries. I'm certainly open to doing it again. I'm open to looking at the prices. I'm open to looking at the incentives. I'm open to all that stuff. So never say never. Like it worked okay. We were kind of hoping, like I said, we knew there was like 5,500 to 6,000 out there. We were hoping somewhere north of 2,000 got burned. In reality, it was about 480, I want to say. And so it fell short of expectations. And I don't know why that was necessarily. We haven't done a postmortem on it yet. But there's.
I crafted a second Scotty literally the day before you announced the Scotty nerf and stuff. So I just ran out of all my resources before you announced it. But otherwise, I would have done it. BDO asks, what is the policy regarding automated gameplay, which I believe means like auto clickers?
Automated game. So automated keyboard clickers. Look, I'm okay with auto clicking. AFK farming, I guess, is if you want to call it that. I don't know if our buttons are all in the right space, but if you can write them, if you're writing a macro and you're going through the interface, it's kind of the same thing as writing a bot. It's effectively a script to play the game for you. It falls into that same thing of, are you doing it across, 60 different, wallets at one time and generating a lot of things that are erroneous. But if you're just, you have an auto clicker piece of software and you're running on a singular laptop because you want to make sure that you don't miss a click while you're sleeping or you're out to dinner or whatever, I'm not too fussed about that.
Good to know. So it's sort of the same thing like the multi-accounting. It's you're not really looking for the small fish, but it is against the rules. So do it at your own risk.
Yeah. It says in the terms of service, automated play, which you can say that an auto clicker is by definition an automated play.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think the most successful
I'm not spending
approach
time
to
looking for people downloading an auto clicker app or piece of software, but yeah, don't, be a good human, I guess, is what I'm saying. Let your conscience guide.
So I have some gold to give away real quick. I know we've held you up for an hour. If you need to leave, that's fine. But we always do a giveaway at the end of our stream. And we don't have the, I think we'll be getting some packs tomorrow to give away, some of those promo packs.
What's the burn percentage on the gold and what's the gold inventory level? Just hover over that for a second and go to the left side of the mint. See if it's below 47,000. So put your mouse over the orange and white numbers there on the mint line.
Here, let me get
Yeah, there we go. To the left there. What's that say?
48,579.
Nice. We could be below 47,000 in the next 2 days, depending on how many people take to the swag kits. That could be a nice gold burn event. And then the percentage, I think, is nearing 87%, which is incredible. The thing that people ask, and the thing I tell people to pay attention to, is the equilibrium on the currencies and on the assets. And so 3 weeks ago, before we made the kind of the gold adjustments, gold burn rate was like 59.9%. And it was somewhere around 70,000 bars available in the inventory. And since we changed those crafting prices and crafting frequencies, the burn rate is now close to 87%. And we're down to, like you saw, 48,500 pieces of gold. Like we're on our path to an equilibrium, which is a really healthy thing to see as a player in this game, making sure that we're paying attention and how do we see the world? Like, okay, are the sinks and faucets working in concert with one another? I'm sorry, you're going to give away some cool stuff, so please.
Yeah, we got.
Yeah, we'll chop it up. We'll chop it up while we marble race. But yeah,
Well,
We'll do 3 races. First place in each race will get a gold, and we have a marble intro. That's our sound cue for everybody to join. It
Nice.
gets very loud, so if you have sensitive ears, please turn down your volume. But if you like to rock, maybe turn it up. But here we go.
Let's get ready to rumble!
And exclamation point play if you'd like to join the giveaway.
Well, so here's a piece. Max and I are very big Magic the Gathering fans.
Oh my God, me too.
So we have this in our notes about talking about Richard Garfield from Magic the Gathering. How did you connect with this dude, and how can we meet him?
Look, in my career, I've met a ton of famous people, celebrities, sports stars. I'm nonplussed by any of them. I met Richard. It was just like fanboy. I like, Richard, can I tell you how I play? Let me tell you about it. He's like, okay, let's get over there. I'm sure he gets that all the time, right?
Richard, can you please look at my black?
Let me tell you about my blue-black artifact control deck.
Oh, I told him about, I play 6 players free-for-all with a 600 card deck, 4 of max, and it's all about the politics of it, right? It's all about a line. Like I felt like that was such an interesting way to play, and I wanted to tell him all about it. He was lovely and he humored me, but I realized about a minute in, I'm like, okay, I should shut my mouth because I'm sure he gets it all day long.
I feel like I would realize that, but I wouldn't be able to stop.
By the way, he lives in your neck of the woods. Like Wizards of the Coast is right there, and I think he's still.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
so he's your neighbor. So we went to him about 3 or 4 months ago, and we said, look, we think a CCG would be great for blockchain brawlers. Like you can realize like moves and stuff, and you can have off the top, like you can easily in your mind map a CCG construct to blockchain brawlers and the characters and all that stuff. He said, first of all, don't call it a CCG. I've been fighting that nomenclature since 1995. It's a trading card game. It's not a collectible card game. I'm like, okay, TCG, noted. He said, look, the really thing he said to me, he's like, just to balance, like, because he's PhD in mathematics, right? He's super brain, all this stuff. He said, just to balance a game like that, even if you do 3 different deck variants, he said the balance pieces will take you about a year. Forget designing the cards, forget the meta, forget health, like just the balancing of that interplay between all those different cards takes about a year to get it really right and get it really tight. He said, if you have a year, and he said, and that's going to take a lot of horsepower for me, and I'm kind of tied up for the time being. He said, I could start maybe in 6 months on something that will take us kind of like, okay, I don't have any of those times. Like, I want something in the market now. He's like, well, I do have this. And then we had to educate him on what Wax was and how we believed blockchain was actually good for gaming. And we had to get him over the hump a little tiny bit because he had that very much like, I don't know about NFTs and I don't know about but once we explained to him how we saw the world, he's like, okay, I'm in. And he said, look, I have this 2-player living deck, single deck card game that I've been designing for almost a year. He said, you could easily wrap a wrestling kind of aesthetic around it. It would work unbelievably well. He said, we're prototyping it. He said, but it's been development for quite a bit, which means I've been tuning it and I've been writing the rules and I've been making interesting playing choices. He said, the prototype's almost done. He said, if this works for you, I'm like, the funniest comment is he initially said to me, he said, well, what kind of game do you want me to design for you? I'm like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, what kind of game do you want me to design for you? I'm like, that's like, I said to him, I said, that's like Prince saying, what kind of song do you want me to write? Like,
you're the guy.
You're the guy. You just tell me what you think is cool and fun and really sets you on fire. That's what I want. I'm not going to be prescriptive. Like, well, I told Richard Garfield this is what he needed to do. Like, no, I'm like, Richard, build whatever you think is really, really cool. And if it works within my construct of that I'm building, great, we will. And fortunately, those things turned out to be very much hand in glove. And
so his role is to design the PvP aspect that's upcoming. Is that what his role is in the context of Blockchain Brawlers?
So his role is to deliver an actual card game where 2 players play head-to-head, multiple rounds with health point pools, and you're making decisions. You're gambling, you're bluffing, you're betting, you're doing all these things. And you're assuming like Texas Hold'em or like Guts, like your hand is better than your opponent's hand. There's lots of ways to position and to posture and to read the man. And it's this really cool, interesting dynamic. And everybody inside the company I've shown this to, they're like, oh my God, this is so not what I thought. And it's better. Like, it's so fun. It's so interesting. And I can see how this be really engaging. It's highly consumptive. Like a game takes about 3 to 4 minutes to play. And right when you're done, then the reaction is, okay, let's go again. Like that's exactly what you want. You want this reaction that like, so that is the core of PvP, is that is the fulcrum that we're going to build everything around. So leagues, esports, rankings, prizes, competitions.
Oh yeah, we go hard on leaderboards. It's like a weird, like just degen thing that clicks in my head. Like I need to be at the top of this leaderboard.
Right.
I remember someone at the very beginning. Sorry that we didn't get to it in context until now, but someone was asking about achievements. If you had any sort of like achievements or quest sort of mechanics you're thinking about implementing, and then the other piece was like if there's any sort of like guilds or, like some sort of team-based guild kind of mechanics as well. God, what's the one where there's like the 3 twins in WWE? I forget their names.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you're talking about the Dudley brothers, where there was 3 of them, but they were supposed to be twins, but nobody. And one of them was an African American and 2 white guys, but they were supposedly twins. I think that goes back 20 plus years. So I apologize if I have that way wrong and I've offended maybe half your audience.
Oh gosh, I have a friend that's really into it, so I don't know enough about wrestling. But anyway, sorry. Achievements and guilds.
So guilds we're calling factions, and faction play is very much coming. It's coming in an asynchronous way, I think, early on, kind of like who has the better, kind of composition of players and what are the competitions asynchronously they're doing before PvP comes out. That's something that we're aiming to do. We'll probably have something like that out end of June, early July is the idea. You can pick your faction name. You can give it a sigil, if you will. We'll have leaderboards that kind of that measure the value or the performance of each guild. Achievements, I will tell you, I absolutely love. I love for a lot of reasons. The question is where does it fit in the grand scheme of things? And I don't think an achievements is anything that you're going to see in the next kind of 3 or 4 months. I love it for engagement. I love it for progression. I love it for giving people something to do. What we are going to do is going to be achievement like initially with PvP is we're going to go really, really deep on stats, right? So it's matches won. It is win rate. It's highest global ranking. It is who have you played the most? Who have you lost to the most? Who have you beaten the most? What is your average margin of victory? Like there's all these things that lean into a performative aspect, which is what achievements are. Achievements are basically a retention tool or an engagement tool. Like, oh, I've got the bronze level of this achievement. Now I need to go for the silver level versus the gold versus like it's a reason that people like a lot of free-to-play games use it to keep people kind of in the funnel, so to speak, and eventually they'll monetize. Like we're not quite as concerned as that kind of go to free to play into pay to play, which is what the reason why a lot of achievements exist. It's a retention engagement thing. That said, I do love it. I think there's absolutely a place for it in Blockchain Brawlers, but I don't see it in the next kind of 90 days. But I do love it as a gaming construct and something that I know people want and find it very appealing because it appeals to me as well. Because the thing that we know that people like to always want to make sure they're progressing. And if you are playing a game, you're like, I'm just not progressing. And where I do progress towards is not anywhere I want to go, like they won't stick around. So you need meaningful progression towards a desirable goal. That's how people retain. So that's what we always look at. That's how we look at
real quick. So exclamation point play for this next giveaway, just as an audio cue there.
I also really want to quickly say we do not give away prizes to accounts with 0 bought on Wax and only sold. Those are usually multi-counters that claim and kind of leech from our community. So please do not enter on multiple accounts or on accounts that I've purchased, or you will be banned from our Twitch. We don't want to have to do that, but it's just part of the gig because otherwise people exploit the crap out of our giveaways. And thank you to everybody who is not doing that. We really appreciate you being real people. Somebody had a question: Is the new brawler going to be able to sustain themselves for play? And I believe that question means like, if you have the new brawler, are you just going to get stomped by everybody with the more expensive brawlers when PvP comes, or will there be a chance for the lower level brawlers to compete?
So that also ties in Toon's question about does the rarity play a role in?
Yeah, look, it's a great question. I don't have a great answer. The answer is I don't know. The thing I'll say a couple things. One is I'll tell you what the thinking is today, and what the overarching kind of belief is that we don't want this to be pay to win. Like we don't want people to feel like, because again, we've got one famous wallet that has kind of 40 plus one of ones. And if they ever decided to play PvP and it was tied to that, even restricted to like, take your top 8 brawlers or your top 4 brawlers, like he would just, curb stomp everybody, and that wouldn't be any fun. But yet we do want to make sure that people collect, right? And that they hold on to things and that they value things that they're investing in, have value down the road. So one of the things that we've thought about doing, like there's a lot of ideas on the table. But one of the kind of the obvious things is certain tournaments, like you can't join unless you have kind of an NFT score above a certain level, right? And so prizes have really great, like, or competitions have really great, like it's live streamed, it's got shoutcasters, it's going to be on Twitch, it's brought to you by, you know, Kellogg's and all, like, you know, all these things, you know, big cash prizes, and the winner gets their own legendary that they design. Like that will have probably a minimum requirement of NFTs to compete, because it's a big event, and we want to make sure that, you know, somebody just didn't get in at the last second, you know, spent, you know, $1 on a secondary market for an asset that has no perceived value, right? Like, oh, I mean, like, no, like we want to make sure that our most engaged players, you know, are able to get access to things. It's like our version of the Bored Ape Yacht Club, so to speak. It's a ticket to a better place.
I think something like almost like what Zed Run does could be cool too, where like the like higher rarity stuff goes into higher level tournaments that cost more to enter. It's like bigger risk, bigger reward. So like people that don't have the big stake don't have to pay as much to enter the tournaments, but also like you can win less. And I think that would work pretty well for different rarities as far as like how much people have invested and how much they're willing to risk.
Yeah, look, I think there's a real progression to be had in PvP. Like if you come in and you start, because we're going to have like a free to play practice area. And then we're going to have like rooms that you go in that have entry fees. Like, you know, you put up 1,000 brawl, I put up 1,000 brawl, the winner gets, you know, 1,600, 1,800, and kind of, you know, the house gets their scrape. Like that's going to be a real fun thing, because we know our audience is very gambling heavy and very kind of, you know, they like to speculate. But to get over that hump, we're going to have a practice area. And so this whole progression in the PvP space will be like, oh, I started with a Mike Yellerbelly. I played in those lower level rooms, like the $2 blackjack table, if you will. I don't understand the rules. I'm actually really, really good. I'm wiping the floor at everybody at this level. I'm going to step up a level. Well, to do that, you have to invest, you know, more in your collection, or you have to go out and you have to acquire those assets to get access to that, right? So it's like, okay, now I'm comfortable. I'm going to move up. I'm going to go up against better competition with better prizes, more visibility, You can see a whole kind of loop that exists there, a set of loops that exist there, that players like, yeah, I started at the bottom and I worked all the way up from the kind of the minor leagues to the show, so to speak.
Oh my God, Burst, is that Burst Mom?
The Burst of Energy's mom just won the race. Shout out to Burst Mom. Shout out to Burst.
Oh yeah, I feel like Burst and the Atomic Kings Guild is gonna.
I totally remembered. It's the New Day. The New Day is like a trio of brothers in WWE, and I saw they had like a Royal Rumble, and when you get knocked out of the ring and you step outside the ring, you're disqualified. And so the one of the few times I watched a full WWE event, I was watching this, and one of the New Day guys was about to fall and touched the ground, and some guy put a plate of pancakes under his foot, and then he stepped on the pancakes, and technically that didn't count as touching the ground, and then they pulled him back up, and I was like, oh my God, like I haven't watched wrestling since I was like a kid, and like it's changed a lot.
That's so good.
The game has changed, but the players are the same.
We'd love to have a Royal Rumble mode where it's not just head to head, where you got 6 or 8 people kind of playing, you know, against each other as well. Like we see a path for that. Like we talked to Richard about how would we make that a possibility. He was really intrigued. He's like, oh, I never even thought about that, because he only thinks about kind of head-to-head play. Like, what about tag team? What about kind of, you know, a handicap match 2-on-1 or 3 people FFA or 6 to 8 people FFA? He's like, oh yeah, we could redesign that. And
yeah, that plays into the wrestling background very well. Yeah.
Yeah. Have your faction homie reach out in Discord and be like, hey, I'm getting my ass kicked. Come tag in.
Anything is possible. Anything is possible.
Toon also asked a question that I wanted
It's your audio cue for the last race for gold.
Toon was also asking, with the like PvP that you were describing, where it's like kind of like a one-on-one like that type of game, how will that introduce many new assets into the Blockchain Brawlers NFT
sure.
Yeah,
okay.
okay.
So the way that I visualize the game, not to give away too much, but you're going to play your card, you're going to have to play your hand, and while you're playing your hand, I think obviously the card table, if you will be a ring, and inside the ring will be your brawler of choice. And as you play moves in your PvP game, like you make plays, you make bets, you take risks, you fold, you do whatever. Like those things will manifest themselves through your brawler and your opponent's brawler in the ring, to the point where as an example, let's say somebody goes to fold, like you may choose to hit the taunt button, and the taunt button may be a custom animation that only you have, and you have it because you crafted it or you earned it or you purchased it from another player or what have you. Same with finishing moves. Like if you do enough damage to finish somebody off, you may want to choose to do any one of, a swanton bomb or a superplex with a people's elbow or, DDT, pedigree, there's all kinds of finishing moves we plan on having in. Player directed, right? Which again is all tied to things that they're going to craft or they're going to earn or they're going to buy. And they're going to have discretion. They're going to choose whether to use it or not. And you can create some real visual spectacle and some real agency with the player like, oh, dude, I totally hit you with, Tito Santana's flying burrito move, which is a slingshot off the rope where he hits you with this fist on the way down from midair. Like all kinds of things you can deliver that can make it really feel very personal, where you're giving choice.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Actually, like
it reminds me of like Mortal Kombat, where it's like such a big deal to like do the finishing move.
But then you have like a unique finishing move that you've like effectively crafted yourself. That's cool as hell.
Yeah, we want to do crafting of moves for your animations in the ring that you get to unlock. And we think that people will appreciate that. We think people will lean into that. And the nice thing is if you don't want to do that, you don't have to, but it's there for you. And also we're going to do things where, kind of a little bit of a nod to Magic, you've got a card deck. And so people will be able to craft their cards for their deck. But they'll also every once in a while be able to craft one, maybe a foil version of that card comes up, right? So then, the whole nod to when Urza's Legacy and Urza Saga first came out, they did the foil versions of those cards. Like not only is it a legendary card, but it's a foil legendary, which makes it super rare, right? It's 1/100% got this and ... It's like, oh, cool. And you did it because again, the slot handle pull worked out in your favor.
And then if you're super degen, eventually you can have like a tournament which is only for full foil decks.
Right. Exactly. You can totally do that. Like nothing is off the table at this point in time.
Oh man, that would be a tall. You'd probably know exactly who you go up against at that point. I mean, I imagine if you've collected the foil deck, you know everybody else who's got the rest.
Oh, for sure. For sure, that's true. And we can do foils of common. So every card can have a common, uncommon, rare, epic, legendary.
Mm-hmm.
And then every common, uncommon, rare, epic, legendary can have a foil version of that. So you can go really Matrix style and try to build out this whole set of all legendaries, all foils. I'm good to go. And then you can do it. We're thinking about, making the decks as well themed to the rest of. So if you're a Scotty Gang member or you're something else, you can. Apologize. You can opt into the aesthetic of the deck, front or back, that you really like. That is how you identify.
That's super cool. I also feel like just in general, like aesthetics and like moves, and rather than like, the move is unique, but not the effect of it. Like I can still keep up with my like common thing, but it just looks less cool, or it has a different feel to it. I feel like that, especially for NFT gaming, is like a focus that I like to see pursued, because at the end of the day, I want to be able to compete even if I don't have thousands of dollars to invest. But if I do have thousands of dollars to invest, I like to, it's like pulling up in a Lambo in front of the bar. Like I mean, I could pull up in front of the same bar with my Ford Focus or whatever. The point is the heads turn when I pull up in the Lambo. So the digital Lambo would be, like my Blockchain Brawlers move is this thing that you've never seen before. And when it fucking comes out, it's like, holy shit, what the hell was that?
Yeah, certainly there's finishing moves that have way more impact and kind of crowd pleasing moments than others. And so rarity will tie into those things. And, if you don't have a badass finishing move, maybe you're just kind of rolling up on the guy and you're pulling his leg back. But if you have an unbelievably baller finishing move, you're doing a superplex off the top turnbuckle, which is one of the most visually arresting things, or a swanton bomb off the top of a one-story tall ladder, but outside the ring, and the guy's on a table. Like you can go so many ways with this and make people like validate what they've earned, what they've done, and let these cards represent who they are as individuals. I'm so good. I'm going to jump off the top rope, off a ladder, onto you, on a bed of thumbtacks, on top of a bed of burning coals. I'm making it up.
It sounds like a game of Clue, but for wrestling.
Colonel Monster
from the ladder with a steel chair.
Right. Yeah. Oh, just
It
imagine.
does seem like that flare adds to the visual effect too. If you're going to add in these like tournament styles and like, you know, live streaming esports thing, that like it adds to the flair as a viewer too, to really see like, okay, these top level players are using top level moves. It'd be really fun to watch.
And then, and especially the whole like idea of unique things too, because it's
Right.
you know, that's a big part of the whole, for me at least, the whole NFT thing is like the one of a kind.
Mhm.
I'm the only one who has. Maybe everyone jumps off a ladder, but when my guy does it, there's this epic sound effect that no one else has that sound.
Right.
You know, and that's like,
yeah.
you know.
We're also going to have different rings that you can choose to quote unquote play PvP in. So maybe if a ring has a table, a broadcaster's table, kind of ringside, that is the only place that you can use that one specific move. It's like, oh my God, I wonder if he's going to pull this out. Well, if you're going to pull it out, you make sure you have to win the match first, and then you get all this uncertainty. So imagine a shoutcaster's like, you know, like he's won, but how's he going to finish him off? You know, and there's that moment of, holy cow, there's that anticipation, like, oh, this is going to be so cool to watch. What's he going to do? We know this guy's a baller. We know he's got all these great moves, but which one is he going to choose to do on this guy?
Yeah.
You choose just to humiliate him, like sit on, like Andre the Giant used to just sit on people. It was the ultimate, like, and nothing you could do when 500 pounds is on your chest. I don't care how strong or badass you are, you're not doing much. And it's super, super shameful, right?
Yeah.
Like, maybe that's the thing. Who knows? But we can take this creatively a million different ways, which is kind of fun.
Or even if you show up with like the most decked out brawler and then you just do a super basic finisher, just also add a little bit of insult there. It's like,
yeah, you just put your finger on.
Yeah, it's like,
all right, so we're gonna do one more race, and Burst said he has a code for an artifact pack, so we'll have an IOU for an artifact pack for this last race.
Oh
So this will be our biggest giveaway. Everybody's gonna want to enter it.
Wow, there we go.
Yeah, get your artifact pack. You'll be ready to join the PvP when that goes live with it, and you can start earning some brawl and hopefully some
tomorrow,
gold
right?
if the RNG gods are on your side. The odds are
Also,
amazing.
to the person who said they got in second, we do season stats. So if you watch enough of our streams, even if you don't get in first place, we do trophies at the end of the season for the top 100 viewers. And here, let me show one of those off really quick.
Yes, we also do artwork.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
we're an art collectible brand. So these are our marble trophies, and whoever wins gets a 1-of-1 trophy with their name on it. So I323 is a Twitch viewer, and then the top 100 get a racer trophy, and then even if you don't win the most, the people who die the most, the top 10 eliminations also get an elimination trophy.
Yeah, and you get the mint equivalent to your placement. So if you finish in 5th, you get mint number 5. So.
And if you finish in 1st, you get mint 1 of the racer trophy and the 1-of-1 with your name on it, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Oh, and then if you don't win at all, but you still come a lot, but your marble just sucks and falls, there's the top 10 eliminations also get elimination trophies.
Those are always really fun too. They're usually based on like movies and stuff.
Yeah, I think the last one was the Spartan kicking the marble, and it's like, this is marbles.
I see Large CP. That's who I'm going to root for.
Nice.
Let's see.
I'm rooting for Large CP right there, bottom.
He's
bottom
right.
right.
He's starting in pool position, kind of. So
here's the elimination trophy. It's based on the movie 300. Maybe if you've seen it, when he's kicking the this is Sparta.
This is Sparta, right? Famous first.
Yeah, they're always like rooted in pop culture and.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be a good finishing move for your wrestler. Just do a big Spartan kick.
Brawlers.
Right.
Just kick him out the ring.
Oh, trust me, they've made that meme about 100 times, I believe.
They're already. Yeah, I feel like by the time I think of something, it's already been like produced.
Right.
Yeah, I love the internet. But yeah, man.
Oh, I thought I saw that you guys are you guys gonna have like lore text on the cards? I mean, I know Magic does that a lot. That's kind of a nice little touch.
We may, with the thing we're doing around lore right now is we're pulling the community into the lore itself. So we have what's really interesting is that players are showing their personalities in channel, right? This person is glass half empty. This person is banged up and angry. This person is happy, like whatever that is, right? This person is argumentative. Like, and if they opt into being part of the narrative and we like their story, their personality, we'll cast them in the quote unquote brawlerverse. So we can kind of write roles for them. And they now have like one guy's already been cast as one of the managers. Another guy's been cast as a heel. Like there's all these things that we're giving people roles inside of kind of Body Slam Bay, which is the name of our town inside the Brawlerverse.
Yeah, it's funny. The stories are such a big deal in wrestling. I feel like building up the character over time, it definitely adds to a lot of what wrestling really is.
We have about a month of story content in the can right now. And in the next month or so, maybe less, we're going to have a side nav bar that shows all the Medium articles, all the game news, all the patch notes, and all the story stuff, and all the leaderboards. Because a lot of complaints we get is like, gee, I hate Discord. I'm only in Telegram, but yet you're really not in Telegram because you don't have an official Brawlers Telegram channel. I don't always go to Medium, so I don't always read the write-up. So how can I, but I do play the game every day. So how can I have access to all the latest and greatest without kind of having to wade through the morass of who knows what in Gen Chat?
So how do you release the lore? Is it like is it built into the app and it's just like a little like news feed kind of thing that you can read once a day, or?
Yes.
Okay.
So there'll be on the left-hand side of the screen a little series of icons that you'll click, and it'll pop out, news, leaderboard, story, patch notes, and then you'll click on that, and then in frame in the app itself, you'll see the content.
Yeah, that really builds community building within the Discord as well. I mean, we've by virtue of being in other NFT communities, our own NFT communities, I mean, we've met so many people in our travels, and that's what really takes it to the next level that makes these things really special. Is the
I'm sure
along the way.
I'm sure.
But yeah, I always laugh. Brock Lesnar is a big one. He's like a former UFC fighter, and then now he's like big in WWE, but he's like so bad, like he's not very well spoken just as a person. So they just build into his character that he has like his manager speak for him. Since if they left him to his own devices to like build his persona, he would just kind of like stumble over his words, or like, all right, Brock, you're just like a really strong mute, and we're gonna have your managers talk to you.
Yeah, he's a monster, and he has no mic skills. And exactly. It's funny. So when I was building WWE content back in the day at THQ, like wrestlers would say all the time, like, I don't want to go into a televised pay-per-view event facing, The Rock, because he's just so good with the microphone. He's just going to eviscerate me, and it's going to be no fun for me. And I'm not that quick-witted. I'm not that quippy. I'm not that sharp. I'm not it's going to be, the match is going to be over before it's even fought. And they take their mic skills and their cutting promos, they take it very, very seriously. And he's kind of always known as one of the best. And so that's part of the whole appeal of building your brand and generating merchandise sales. So the fact that Brock is an absolute monster with like that Bayonetta like tattoo, right?
Yeah.
Gosh, like he's a real intimidating dude. And he's got God-given talent athletically. He won the NCAA championship in heavyweight wrestling and Greco-Roman. Like he fought in the Olympics. Like he's a bad mother, but he cannot cut a promo to save his life.
Yeah. It's part of the whole package when you get in the wrestling world.
Right. I didn't realize they have his manager speak for him now. I've never watched in the last few years, but it's very funny. And
yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Mike. I feel like we've taken way more than your time than you deserve to give us. And thanks to everybody for watching. This has been an awesome, informative stream.
Yeah.
We hope to have you back. Whenever there's any updates, let us know. And we'd love to have you come on and talk to him about us, because it's been great.
That'd be great. Yeah, I'd love to come back. This is fun for me too.
Sale tomorrow.
Yep.
6,000. Well, I guess 5,000 packs for sale. 1,000 packs going for giveaways.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So if you guys don't have your packs to give away to your audience, reach out to Larcy P. She is the gal who can get you your packs to give away. So
yeah, she said she's gonna send them out tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm gonna do like a drop day stream and give away a pack. And
fabulous.
I think I'm gonna open a pack as well.
Oh,
what's
great.
the actual timing of the sale?
Starts at 10 a.m. Pacifics for you if you're all.
So UTC -7.
Yeah, UTC -7. Right. So 10 a.m., 1 p.m., 5 p.m. Right? Is that right? Math right? Yeah, something like that.
I think so.
And that's $50. It's tethered to $50, but in wax equivalent, right?
Correct. And then the opening will be 3 hours later. So you can buy them at 10 a.m. The opening will begin at 1 in the afternoon. And we're going to push a content update tomorrow, or a code update tomorrow, that allows for all these pieces to work and a couple of bug fixes. And we're changing the crafting recipes for the swag kits, going down to 1,000 brawl and 2 gold across the board for every single swag recipe in the game. Old, new, rarity doesn't matter. It's 1,000 brawl, 2 gold across the board. That's the other big change coming tomorrow.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, we're going to raid into NFT Gamer TV, but we like to close our stream out with a fun song. This is not financial advice, but this song's called Buying the Dip. Thank you for joining us, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Oh, man. Your boy Kevin just lost lots of money. Oh, but that's okay.
I am with you, with you. Oh man, your boy Kevin just lost lots of money. Oh, but that's okay. I am with you. Here we go, come on, push it, find the dip, find the dip. Here we go, come on, push it, find the dip, find the dip. Here we go, come on, push it, find the dip, find the dip. Here we go, come on, push it. Oh my God, what's happening?
First of all this wanting on Wall Street is making me sick. 140% of GameStop was short. GameStop was short. You can't allow Wall Street to short 75% of a stock, crush these companies into the dirt, thousands of stocks into the dirt. Then when the individual makes money, everyone's entrepreneurs. I have a kid who bought a house, paid $50,000 and bought a house. After decades of the shorts, you have to accept the fact that individual investors are playing the same game that you're playing, and now you're losing.
Here we go, come on, push it, find the dip, find the dip. Here we go, come on, push it, find the dip, find the dip. Here we go, come on, push it, find the dip, find the dip. Here we go, come on, push it. Oh my God, what's happening? Here we go, come on, push it, find the dip, find the dip. Here we go, come on, push it, push it, push it, find the dip. Here we go, come on, push it, find the dip, find the dip. Here we go, come on, push it. Oh my God, what's happening?
There's a lot of power in organization online.
All right, thanks for joining us, everybody. We're raiding into NFT Gamer TV. I believe they're doing Taco Tuesday with the Taco team, so have fun over there, and everybody have a great week. Good luck on the pack sale tomorrow.
Yeah, it's great to stream again. I can't wait to do that more next week.
We're actually going to be contracting his team
All right.